Today, I want to introduce you to a new manifestation strategy called Lucid Daydreaming, which will help you achieve your business goals. Because most entrepreneurs I work with or come across, they have the knowledge, they have the skills, but they lack the mental fortitude and discipline in order to change their reality. Most entrepreneurs set goals without ever mastering the mindset that actually creates the results. But here at SupremeX.ai, we engineer outcomes. And in this video, I'm going to show you the manifestation strategy we use called Lucid Daydreaming, which is a mental performance method that allows you to lock onto your business goals with absolute clarity and execute with precision, right? This is not fantasy. It's not positive thinking. This is a controlled focus technique used to align your decisions, actions, and daily behavior with the results that you're aiming for. And this is what the top 1% of entrepreneurs do in the world. So if you're serious about scaling your business, staying disciplined, and hitting your targets you've been dancing around for many years, pay close attention. I'm going to show you exactly how Lucid Daydreaming works and how we apply it inside our business and how you can apply it inside yours and how you can use it to turn your goals into a non-negotiable reality and hit them with laser focus. With that said, let's get started. Lucid Daydreaming is a form of daydreaming, right, where you are more aware. You are imagining or creating a scenario, like a more intentional and conscious form of fantasizing. I want you to remember that, right? It's different from a lucid dream because when it happens, when you're asleep, you are fully aware that you're dreaming, and sometimes you can control the dream events. While normal daydreaming is easily guided through more superficial lucid dreaming state, and it's about a deeper, more controlled immersion in your mind in order to create the reality that you want while you're awake. All right, let's take a look. Right, lucid daydreaming versus lucid dreaming. Right, so here's a table what breaks down the difference. So here's a feature, right? The state of consciousness, right? In lucid daydreaming, you're awake. In lucid dreaming, right, you're asleep during RME moments, right? A deep state of sleep, right? Awareness, right? The awareness in lucid daydreaming is that you're highly aware that you're daydreaming and you're imagining, you're conscious, right, to the fact. Where in lucid dreaming, you're aware that you're dreaming, right? The sensory experience, right? In lucid daydreaming, right, the primary mental, you have less vividness due to the awake state and awareness of your physical surroundings. So you're consciously aware of your surroundings, but you're just in this lucid daydreaming state, which, what in lucid dreaming, basically can be a highly vivid state with highly censored experiences, sound, light, sound, touch, and smell, right? Now, the control aspect, right? In lucid daydreaming, you are actively, right, conscious, and you build a construct scenario which you more likely control. While in dreaming element, right, sometimes you can control the narrative, but it's differently. Remember, you're in a different state of consciousness, right? So distractions, you can interpret external stimulus because you're awake, you're aware in lucid daydreaming. While in lucid dreaming, you are in a protective form of external interruptions, right? Things can externally interrupt your mind. You're in a different state of consciousness, right? So lucid daydreaming is not random thinking. It's intentional imagination while fully awake. In this state, you're consciously aware that you're creating mental scenes. Scene 1, scene 2, scene 3. And you're fully actively guiding them, right? It increases self-awareness because you observe your thoughts as they happen. It involves a mental construction where you deliberately build scenarios in your mind that reflect your desired successful outcome. It operates as a hybrid state, blending logical awareness with creative imagination, allowing you to design the future while you're still grounded in reality. I want you to think about that for a moment. Right? The key aspects of lucid daydreaming, right, is increased self-awareness, right? You're consciously observing your own thoughts and imaginations as they happen, right? Mental construct, right? Construction. You're actively building and manipulating the daydream and exploring the tasks, ideas, and skills that you want. You're role-playing your scenarios, for example, your day, the goals that you want to achieve, and you're actively aware and conscious. The hybrid state, right, is the internal state which you're blending your rational and logical thinking in an awake state to create your desired image that you want of your goal, which is so key. These are tiny submodalities, right, what create the difference. Most of us have random thoughts, right, and we're not really paying those thoughts a laser focused attention. I think sometimes Anthony Robbins mentions this, right? So these aspects matter because they give you control over your inner world instead of letting your thoughts run automatically based on fear, doubt, or past failures. You consciously build empowering scenes, right? This strengthens your focus, sharpens your emotional alignment, and trains your subconscious mind to accept a new reality. When you master this internal focus or locus of focus, your external results begin to shift. It's so important, right? What we picture, we imagine, we create, right? Sometimes this is so subtle, but it's so effective, right? Number one, the core philosophy why we use daydreaming. One, imagination creates reality. Everything that you experience outwardly is a reflection of your inner assumptions and your feelings, right? Assumptions is the creation state. What you persistently assume and you feel as true hardens into a fact and a thought, right? You live with the end in mind, right? You must think, feel, and act with the end that you've achieved your goal and you're working back. As a thought, the desire is already fulfilled, right? Feeling is the secret, because once you add imagination and emotion, right, to the experience, it equals the manifestation state, right? Without feelings, imagination is just zero. This is why it's so powerful, right? We've had all these thoughts, but we're not injecting them with emotion when we're thinking about our business goals. And this happens in all other areas of life as well. Right, revision, right? We revisit negative memories or events in imagination to shift our state, right? Persistence over current circumstances. We ignore what the senses show. They are past assumed assumptions crystallized. So we're not thinking about, all right, this happened, I had a business that it didn't work, or I can't achieve this goal, I had to challenge this before. No, right? This is the core philosophy of how we use like lucid daydream in that conscious state. Like I said, imagination creates reality. We revisit what works, right? We persist over circumstances which are not working, and we feeling is the secret. We feel with intense feeling and admiration that we're going to achieve with this goal, right? And then we assume, which creates the reality. The core philosophy behind daydreaming is simple. Your imagination creates the reality. What you consistently assume and emotionally feel becomes your lived experience, right? That means that your current circumstances are simply a past assumption that are crystallized. To defend them, you don't fight reality. You change your inner state. Our inner state is what we change. You persist in the feeling of the wish being fulfilled. We rewrite the negative mental stories and prioritize the inner conflict over our external evidence, right? We want to achieve a goal. We want to develop a six-figure offer. You may have never developed one before, right? But we got to, how can I say, delete the past reality of not achieving that six-figure offer or develop a six-figure offer, right? 2, the key point is defeat your current circumstances of reality, which is so crucial and so key, yeah? What you must do is assume the feeling of being a millionaire now, developing a millionaire offer, right? Persist regardless of what you have on this current day, your bills, your current bank balance, right? The logic, what we normally feel, right? Which is important. The opinions of others around us, no, we cannot achieve it, right? Or the negative influences, right? Imagination, we got to imagine scenes of wealth daily. This is where the vivid imagination that we're achieving our goals. We're developing a big $1 million offer. We're achieving what we want our business to achieve, right? Financially, right? We've got to feel those realities as scenes. We live them as a new man, not as the old one, the new version of us. We always got to think about the new version of us and what we're achieving, right? Then we revision, right? Anytime something contradicts that desire. So anytime we have a contradicting thought, right, we have to revisit this new imagination and image of us achieving our goals and getting our desired outcome, right? What you must not do not ask how it will happen. This is so key. Some of us have big goals and we want to ask how is it going to happen, right? We don't check for signs obsessively. We just let the process flow, go with the flow, right? We don't focus on lack. Like, I might not have enough money in my bank account today. I'm not seeing the external experiences what manifests in my desired outcome I want, right? We don't focus on that. We don't allow negative inner conversations that we might have in our mind, right, to take control, right? Between our two ears, right? It's a powerful mind. We have inner dialogues, but we don't let the inner dialogues drown us in a negativity. We don't look for outside confirmation because it's too early. We've got the vision in our mind, but we need time to make it manifest. To apply this correctly, you must assume the feeling of you already being successful now, right? Not someday. You must live in the feeling in the moment now. Imagine wealth daily. Feel it as it's real and live mentally as your new version of yourself, right? At the same time, avoid obsessing over how it will happen. Lack, right? Like I said, don't let negative inner conversations dominate our mind, right? This shift happens internally first and not externally, right? Here's the diagram, what explains this, right? Defeat the current circumstances through lucid assumption. Our current reality, right? We must not focus on our current reality. What we must do is assume that feeling of greatness that I'm going to develop $1 million offer or I'm a millionaire, right? We must be persistent, right? We must create the daily images of wealth, right? We must ignore the external evidence, like I said, our bills, our bank balance, our logic, anything logical, negative opinions, right? And we must embody the new identity as it is now, right? This is so key. This leads us to getting clarity, right? Clarity of our inner state versus our outer reality, right? This is the inner state, what we have in our mind, right? Like, I am a millionaire now. I'm creating $1 million offer, right? I'm feeling abundant for security, right? And the outer reality might be opportunities miraculously appear. Unexpected money gifts and opportunities arise, right? Imagine scenes vividly, right? Physical life aligns, right, with the outer reality. Despite doubts, which is so key in our inner state, right, our manifestation accelerates, right? Resisting negative events, obstacles dissolve just like that, right? Revisiting negative experiences, right? We're creating obstacles which dissolve them and shift in our favor. So basically, right, clarity comes from understanding that our inner state creates our outer results. When we say I'm a millionaire or I'm developing a millionaire offer and generally feel that abundance and security, our outer world begins to align with our inner world, right? Opportunities appear, obstacles dissolve and disappear, right? New connections emerge. The physical reality mirrors the external identity. This becomes clearer and more stable on our inner state, right? And that fastly, right, starts to generate our external results, what start to shift, right? And here is some tools that you can use, right? One tool is the tool of assumption. Assume the desired reality and identity already exists. Why? Because this creates a mental blueprint and reality, right, which must follow. Tool number 2, right? Live in the end. which embodies the outcome now and aligns our subconscious with fulfillment, which is so key, right? Inner conversations, right? Another tool, right? We all talk to ourselves. Our self-talk as a millionaire or developing $1 million offer is so important, right? It builds the identity and the dominant state. Remember, right? Our imagination scenes, we must replay wealthy outcomes of us achieving our goal every single day, right? This creates the vibration to match our wealth, right? And we must persist, which is so key. When we persist, we stay faithful to the end, right? And this forces reality to reorganize its world and assumptions around us. So these are practical tools that will make the process powerful. Assumption creates reality, which creates identity. And living in the end aligns with our subconscious, right? Living with the end. So we're thinking that we've already achieved the outcome. It aligns with our subconscious, right? And the feeling with intensity impresses it on our subconscious mind so deeply, because it's a subconscious mind that runs our whole anatomy, our own building, our own body of art, right? Which creates our reality. So when we must also revision removes resistance. Anytime we have negativity, we must revision that positive element, that positive outcome, right? Which removes resistance and creates a inner conversation that shapes our self-concept. This is a natural chain reaction, right? So our image scene creates emotional blueprints and persists, forces reality to reorganize around us, right? These tools work because the subconscious responds to repetition and emotion, right? Not just logic alone. This is so key, right? Now here is a flowchart of how manifestation works, and in detail. First we imagine, right? In our subconscious, we get this feeling, we create this feeling, electricity, energy, what comes into our emotional state. Then we create this assumption, which now becomes our identity, which forms our self-concept, right? Now it goes into our subconscious, which our subconscious mind accepts it as a reality on a deep subconscious belief. Then we start to experience incidents of events, right? What start to come into reality. That's why we don't always need to know how, right? And this incidents of events start to create the reality, what leads to the physical manifestation and the actual reality of us achieving our goal, right? So manifestation follows a sequence, right? Imagination creates a scene, feeling adds emotional power, assumptions build identity, the subconscious accepts it as true, which then builds a bridge of incidents and events which unfold, meaning unfolded events align with our inner, right? Which now starts to move us towards our goal, which finally the physical manifestation and outcome into the external world, we start to see that process happen. It's so key. A lot of the time we're caught up in our head, but we're not organizing our thoughts in an aligned way. If we just re-envision our goals and see it in the end as already fulfilled, it becomes a powerful process, right? Now here are 8 practical ways we could use this, right? 8 practical ways. Number 1, right? Daily scenes, right? Imagine yourself living as a millionaire, right? Achieving your goal, building a 6-figure offer, money in your bank account, the home that you live, the generosity, the peace. Why do this? Because the subconscious mind responds to vivid inner images and experiences, right? One practical way to use this is through daily imagination, right? Creating scenes. Spend a few minutes, imagine yourself already living your desired reality and having your desired outcome. Checking your bank balance with larger balances, right? You're imagining this, you're feeling it, right? And that feeling generates a desire, delivers energy, develops a vibration, right? And then the subconscious mind responds strongly to vivid images in our inner experiences. If we repeat this daily, right, the scenes start to shift reality, right, which is so crucial. Two, our inner self-talk, how we talk to ourselves, right? We've got to talk to ourselves like a wealthy person, doing well, developing a six-figure offer, right? Saying to ourselves, I always have wealth, I always have money, I'm always enough, right? Money comes to me in endless ways. I overcome my challenges in business in endlessly. Why? Because this inner speech forms a state, right? Our identity, which eventually comes reality. Now, the inner self-talk is powerful, right? We speak yourself into existence already, like you're wealthy, I'm successful. Statements like I have more, I have enough, reshape our subconscious beliefs, and our inner dialogue forms our new identity. And then identity shapes our results, which in turn shapes our outcome, which is so key, right? I know before I used to think, does this whole process work? But once you understand how your mind works and the manifestation process, right, you're going to start achieving your business goals effortlessly, right? 3, feeling-based affirmations, right? Use affirmations only when you feel them. You got to feel the energy, right? Our emotions is energy. Energy creates electricity. Electricity in our mind creates reality, right? Feelings impress on a subconscious mind, not simple repetition, right? Affirmations only work when they're felt emotionally, right? Repeating empty words, right, has little impact, right? We've got to generate emotion in those words, right? When you generally feel abundant, security, peace, while affirming, that emotional charge impresses our subconscious mind, which is key. And feeling is the key to making affirmations effectively, right? 4, revisiting situations. Take any negative event and rewire it into imagination. Prevent contradictory statements that derail that manifestation that we want to envision. So revision means mentally rewriting negative events that have happened in our past. If something goes wrong during the day, don't let it harden into your identity. Don't stick to it, right? Just revisit it, right? And just say, I'm going to start afresh, right? Instead, reimagine it endingly positively. This prevents contradictory statements happen, blocking our manifestation path. You're not just denying reality, you're reshaping your internal response to it, right? Number 5, you might have heard this, right? We've got to act as if internally, right? How? Walk, think, and carry ourselves as someone rich or even privately. Why? Because identity leads to reality. It's so key. We start to develop this new identity, right? Which must match our inner state of being. So acting as if, right? This is why we began with the end in mind, because we act as if it's already happened, right? Which doesn't mean we're pretending publicly. No, we have this internal state of control, right? This means internally thinking, walking, carrying ourselves as someone who's already had the result, because the subconscious mind cannot distinguish between fantasy and reality, right? That's why if you ever watch a horror film, right, and you see a scary moment, subconsciously you become scared. It has a reaction on your conscious mind, right? So acting as if, right, it means internally thinking, walking, and carrying ourselves that we've got that achieved that goal. The identity now leads to reality. And when our external behaviors match our desired outcome, bang, our outer world starts to shift and we start to reflect this new self-concept. This is so key, right? Because sometimes we think it's all hustle. No, it's not. Sometimes we just need to align ourselves with our mental thoughts in our mind in order to achieve the goal that we want. So the key takeaways are: reality is our mirror, not a creator. Wealth is a state of consciousness, not money in the bank account. So don't forget, if you don't have the revenue in your bank account, that's not the option. Wealth is a state of consciousness, what we conjure in our imagination, right? Feelings and imagination equals creation. Doubt is not an enemy, it's a sign to return to our chosen state. So if we get a thought that's not congruent with our goals, it's just a reminder to change, to return to our chosen state, right? What we want to desire and manifest, right? So you are an operator, right? Power, not faith or luck. You don't manifest what you want, you manifest what you desire. what you are, what your being is, right? So the biggest takeaway is reality is a mirror. Wealth is a state of consciousness, not just numbers in a bank account. Doubt isn't failure, it's a signal to return to our chosen desired state, right? And we don't manifest what we want, we manifest what you consistently are. That's what we got to consistently be, that internal being, right? Then the reality will follow. So what can you learn from this, right? You can constantly control your life with inner thoughts and assumptions, right? So we must always be in control of assumptions. That's why I don't watch a lot of TV, right? I don't want to be TV programmed by other stuff, right? Which is coming into my conscious mind, right? Or I don't like to binge watch content, right? Only content what's relevant to my goals, right? So manifestation is a predictable and lawful, and it's not mystical. I repeat, manifestation is predictable and lawful, right? Not mystical or things happen mistake. No, we got to constantly put those thoughts at the forefront of mind, right? Emotional discipline is true skill to beyond wealth creation. Emotional discipline, that means us discipline our thoughts, how we feel, discipline our emotions, right? Because we have emotional discipline, oh my days, we would hit our goals just like that, right? Once you understand how we're wired as human beings, we can connect and chart to change and create our own reality, right? So our identity becomes our outcome, because now we've got this new self-identity that we envision in our mind. It starts to manifest into an outcome. Time is irrelevant. Consciousness is the only cause, right? So time is irrelevant. Consciousness is the only cause. We've got to create this element of consciousness, right, around our goals. You already possess the creative power. You only need to use it correctly. All of us have got this creative power to generate electricity, to make our goals happen if we constantly put them and reaffirm them on the front of our mind, right? From this system, you will learn that manifestation is not mystical, like I said. It's psychological, emotional discipline is the true skill, right? Our identity determines our outcomes. Consciousness is the cause, and you already possess the power, right? This is such a deep thought, right? So I want you to keep on thinking about this, because sometimes, like I said, we think we need to hustle hard. We don't have the right information. No, we got it. We're just not harnessing our creative power. So here are 10 frequently asked questions, right? Do you really need to feel like a millionaire to become one? Yes. Feeling is the creative energy, creative force. Without emotion, the subconscious will upset the state. It's so key to understand. 2, what if you don't know what being a millionaire feels like? Remember, imagination relates to feelings, security, relief, freedom, choice, and generosity, right? 3, how long would I need to visualize for, right? Short sessions for a period of 2 to 5 minutes are much more effective, right, than long sessions, right? So this is why we say revisit during a day, right? What if doubt comes in? Return to your state instantly, right? This is where the emotional discipline comes. Return to your thoughts of what you want to manifest, right? And don't dwell on the negative. Do I need to take physical action? Inspired action may arise, but in effect, it's not the cause. It's the consciousness which is the cause, right? What is a bridge of incidents which I've been talking about? It's a chain of unexpected events that will occur that will lead you to the ultimate desire. See, once you're in that conscious state, these natural events are going to occur to help you achieve your goals, right? And this is why sometimes you don't need to know why in the beginning, right? Can other people block my manifestation? Hell no. Only your assumptions can affect your world, how you think and how you feel. Only your assumptions, right? Your feelings can block your manifestation. That's why we want to have a crystal clear mind, right? See how clear goes, crystal clear. And I always say to my team, if I can't envision something crystal clear, it's not going to happen, right? Because then I can't vividly imagine it. I can't generate electricity and power into that specific thought or outcome if I can't crystally see it in my mind, right? What if nothing changes at first? Early signs are visible. Your state must stabilize before it reflects the external. So we've got to have this stabilization moment of our thoughts and realities, right? Before it can manifest, right? Imagination is more powerful than reality. This is so key, right? Imagination is the cause, reality is the result. So imagine is the cause, reality is the effect, right? What do I do if I skip a day? Simply return to a state. Sometimes, right, I don't have a good day. I think the other day I wasn't achieving my goals, I wasn't aligned, right? So I just said, no, let me just restart this day or just restart tomorrow fresh, right? Persistence matters more than perfection. So now here is a framework for the 30-day millionaire state, right? I call it the 30-day millionaire state system, right? Number one, right, is identity. Who you must be. Define your self-concept. You got to define it yourself. Believe it, right? I'm a millionaire creating a millionaire offer. Speak, think, walk as this is your identity. Step 2, imagination, what you see vividly in your mind, right? Daily imaginary scenes, right, of money rolling into your account, the lifestyle that you want, you paying your bills easily, opportunities flowing to you, right? Imagination is more powerful than reality, right? Step 3, feeling, right? The general feeling of peace, abundance, security, feeling. You must understand, all right, how generate this feeling in your body, right? This feeling is going to generate an outcome. It's going to impact your subconscious mind. Step 4, right? Re-envision, remove contradictions, rewrite any negative event that's happened or negative feeling, right? Replace it with your ideal experience, right? Number 5, persistence. Stay in state at all times. That might be hard, but stay in state at all times, right? Ignore circumstances. Stay focused to the end, right? Reality will bend to your states, right? This is so it's true. You're bending reality, right? You with me, right? The ancient gods used to imagine steel and bend it, or a spoon and bend it with their thought process. I think you see that in the film The Matrix. The 30-day, right, system begins with identity, deciding who you must be, then building daily imagery scenes of wealth. Next, you generate the feelings, peace of abundance and freedom. Then you revisit this daily, right? And this will end up becoming a reality. Now, I created a implementation 30-day implementation plan, right? So, phase 1, days 1 to 7, plant the seed in your subconscious mind, right? Choose the millionaire identity that you want to become. Go to places, see yourself in a car that you want to drive, the house, or the people in your house, family, loved ones, friends, right? You're building these 2 to 3 imagery scenes every single day. And you have nightly revision to practice those scenes, right? And then you have a morning routine and an evening routine to get acquainted with those feelings. How does my outcome feel like, right? Shift your dominance inner state. The first week, you plant the seed, you choose your identity, then you create your scenes of reality, right? You practice them daily, you generate the feelings, right? Here is just a diagram explaining that, planting the seed. Practice manifestation, right? Choose your identity, define your self-concept, create your scenes, have 2 to 3 scenes every single day, right? Morning feeling, right? Generate that feeling of power. Have that emotional feeling in your stomach, in your belly to generate that feeling to those scenes that you're creating, right? Do the same at evening, right? And your goal will be the dominant state, right? Which is going to lead to your desired state. And there's going to be a shift that can happen, right? Days 8 to 15, you're stabilizing your mind, right? Anytime you do something for the first time, you have to do it consistently before it becomes stable. I believe they say it takes 30 days to create a habit, right? You increase your inner conversation, start speaking to yourself. I can achieve my goals. This is how I'm going to achieve my goals. I'm wealthy, right? I know this can happen. I'm going to manifest all these opportunities. Start speaking to yourself like that. Even if you start in the mirror, start believing it, right? Ignore the outer evidence because it's in your inner state, right? The inner state creates the outer state, but you don't have that yet. So you're going to ignore the evidence and what you see externally, right? Act internally as a wealthy version of yourself. You're acting. Even if you have to look in the mirror, create these states. I am this person, right? Do it long enough, it starts to become an identity, right? An identity then becomes a belief. A belief is then hardened into reality. So in phase 2 is your stabilization state. You'll strengthen your inner conversations of wealth, of how you speak to yourself, right? You're not contradicting yourself, right? You're continually acting internally as the wealthier version of yourself, with the goal to make this you feel abundant and force this creative power to bend reality to your circumstances, right? So, day 2, right? This is a diagram, same thing. Conversation with yourself, strengthen your self-concept, ignore your outer evidence of what you're seeing, right? Act wealthy within, have this inner state of belief and desire, right? Reinforce it day and night, right? And you feed in that goal like a flower, right? Then you're going to start manifesting it, right? Days 16 to 23, right? Phase 3 is embodiment. Expect miracles to happen, right? Without looking for them. That means people come to help you. Things going right, events coming up, opportunities coming up, right? You will subtly notice shifts, new ideas, unexpected calls. You might just be in a chat TV feed and it just gives you a download of information on what you need to do, right? Which increases your confidence, right? Here's a diagram that explains this, right? Embodied. So that means now we're embodying that whole experience, her whole outcome of us achieving our goals. Without hustle, by the way, we're taking the energy in us and generating them feelings, right? So during this embodiment stage, right, there's subtle shifts start to happen. You start to notice new ideas, opportunities, confidence increases, and then you don't chase miracles. Things naturally start to happen and come towards you, right? Day 24 to 30 is harvest time. You've been planting. Imagine doing this for 30 days. You're generating all this electricity, all this emotion in your being. I'm telling you, you're so incredible and we've got so much emotion power within ourselves. But we waste it. We drain it out of our system, right? Sometimes just scrolling, social media, not using that life force, right? To put it into our goals. It's really a life force of our emotions, right? The physical reality becomes to rearrange and match your state, right? In harvest mode, you strengthen your identity daily. You allow the bridge of incidents and circumstances to unfold. Things you didn't know that how you're going to achieve your goal starts to happen, right? You maintain clarity, right? You don't try to force a result, right? The goal is to let physical reality reorganize itself natural around you, based on your dominant thoughts in your mind and your assumptions, right? So day 14 to 30, right? Strengthen your daily identity. Identity is everything, right? And then these circumstances of events are going to start to unfold how you achieve your goal. Opportunities, people to meet, right? Insights, right? And you're going to just remain calm with certainty, and then you're going to have that belief and re-stabilize that belief, which is going to strengthen into your goal, into a belief, right? So now, the final insight, right? You do not manifest by working harder. That's why I said it's not about hustle, right? Some of you got skills, you've got knowledge, and you're still not achieving your goals. I say, right, you do not manifest stuff by working harder, right? If you're working hard, you're not using your life force, right? You're not using that life force of energy. You manifest by being the version of who you are and what you desire. Your only job is to assume, feel, and persist in that state, right? And then your identity changes naturally. If you change your identity, you change your reality, you change your world. Most of us are stuck in this past being, right? We're not generating new energy into that new identity of the person that we want to become, right? Because not thinking consistently, scrolling social media, watching TV. The real mind of TV is in our mind, right? What we have to envision, right? This is the real way of programming ourselves by developing a new identity of the person that we want to become. Right? Like I said, right? Harden our reality to the person that we want to become, right? So if we focus on generating that energy and that desire, that identity of that person, reality will follow, right? Before we close, I want to leave you with one thought. Every major result you see in the world, every company built, every breakthrough idea, every decision started in someone's mind first. It's so important for you to understand it. It started in someone's mind first, not as wishful thinking, but a clear, intentional vision. They stepped into it before anyone else could see it, right? This is what you're doing. And that's why the process I described as lucid daydreaming is about. We envision this, right, lucidly, right? Having this image at the forefront of our mind, generating energy and electricity and feelings into it, right? Not escaping reality, but preparing for it. So when you deliberately step into the version of yourself who has already achieved the goal, something shifts. Your decisions change. Your confidence changes. The way you move through the opportunities that are going to come changes, right? And slowly but surely, the outside world begins to reflect your inner state, right? Which you've been rehearsing, right? Just like an actor, right? So if you're an entrepreneur who has been struggling to achieve your goals, if you've been put in the work, but you still think something's missing, this is it, right? I hope this gave you a new perspective and something powerful to experiment with, right? But sometimes the breakthrough isn't just more hustle. It's not just more hustle, right? We've got to generate that electricity, that energy into the identity of our future self. Sometimes it's learning how to see things differently before you act. If you found this insightful, make sure you subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on the next video, where we will be breaking down more strategies around mindset, business, personal growth, and how to build an AI company. And if this resonated you, drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts, your goals, and what you're aiming towards next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.